Good morning, everybody. We have a real treat this morning of having Russell Delman back. So looking forward to it. We're going to be talking about meaning. Oh, there's so much to feel into and think about and say with each other about that. So Katerina will introduce Russell, and then we will hear from Russell.
So Russell Delman has returned to Helpful Helpers, and we're very grateful that he's come at this time. There are some notes to read about him. Russell's work is called The Embodied Life. It integrates Zen Meditation, Feldenkrais Movement and Focusing. His more than 50 years of Zen practice roots his emphasis on presence, curiosity, and not knowing. Leading Feldenkrais professional training since 1984, and he helped in educating more than 2,000 Feldenkrais practitioners. With unbounded gratitude, Russell feels blessed by deep personal relationships with Gendlin and Moshé Feldenkrais. Above all, his wife of 60 years, Linda, and daughter Liliana are his main teachers. His website is theembodiedlife.org.
Thank you, Katerina. Thank you. Yeah, thank you to Lynn, Katerina, to every one of you to be here. We get to explore a subject that is, for many years, been very important to me. So this centrality, I would say, of how we create meaning in our life was certainly central for Jean, central for so many of us, whether it's very conscious or not. I know for myself, way back when I was a freshman at university and first read Abraham Maslow's scales of many of you know about once your needs are satisfied, then you look for the kind of higher levels to move towards self-actualization. And that really struck me. And then in the last years, I've been reflecting how it's ironic that when survival is in the foreground of our life, we don't have enough food, we don't have a place to live, there are bombs going off, that in a way meaning is already implicit. The will toward survival satisfies the will toward meaning. And then one of the gifts of, for many of us, especially in modern culture, is that our basic needs are covered. And then I realized that all the other higher level needs or wants of human beings, for me, can be summarized as we're all looking for a meaningful life. And so when I saw that, I realized that, for some of us, that means having something like a defined path, a life path, a spiritual path, a organizing principle. And again, sometimes that's in the foreground, sometimes it's not even defined, but is living in the background of our experience. But I realized that for all the students I get to interact with, that somehow this question, whatever is the issue they're dealing with, whether it's some kind of compulsion, addiction, or just trying to learn to meditate or whatever, go deeper into their life experience. Underneath, there is something about, remember the movie or the song, What's It All About, Alfie? There's something about, is that all there is? Wasn't that a song? Maybe Peggy Lee, I think. That sense of what moves us deeply beyond paying our rent, beyond being connected to a loved one, including that, but beyond that also. You know, as I reflect on it, in earlier times, these weren't questions for most human beings because the culture, the institutions, the village life, the everyone belonging to the church, it was already offered a context of meaning. Whether it worked for everybody or not, we can't judge, but the questions about kind of the existential questions probably have always been around, but not for the majority of people until the 20th century, when the culture no longer, it's like the gift and the curse of freedom. The gift and the curse of individual freedom is now we get to choose what is central to our lives when it's not supplied externally, when it's not based on survival. And wow, that human freedom comes at such a cost of so many people feeling alienated, lost, and boy, we sure see an acceleration of that today in the world as technology goes forward and little kids are on their iPhones and people, virtual reality becoming more compelling than interaction for so many. And there's so many examples of that culturally and internationally that it's particularly potent that right now we have the opportunity, but also, I would say, in my language, life is asking us, offering us and asking us to individually really sense what is central to this life that I'm living. How can I look back on my deathbed, if I'm lucky enough to be conscious and present, and say, oh, I somehow met good enough, satisfying enough, the opportunities that I had in this life. I know for me, I've been involved in Zen meditation for more than 50 years, and I don't call myself a Buddhist, although I've been very influenced by Buddhist teachings. I don't call myself any ist, but I realized after many years of leading Feldenkrais trainings and kind of having some identity as a Feldenkrais person or a focusing person or a meditating person, those kind of scaffoldings of identity, I realized, I asked myself the question, if I had 5 years left to live, this was around 2000, what would I be doing? And that's when I really focused in on what I call the Embodied Life teachings. And that became more of a defined path for me. And then I could see what was I here to actualize in myself and to offer into the world. And so that kind of personal uncovering of, we can call it meaningfulness. For some of us, we can call it the path of life. How do we define or sense into the path we've already been leading? The path that has guided us? So let's pause for a moment. Maybe close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. I don't want to fill it with too many words or ideas. We will be interacting and you'll have a chance to speak and have breakout rooms. But maybe let's just take a moment to come into a deeper presence together. Drop down in your body. Again, these are invitations to feel the reality that you're sitting, that your bottom is in touch with something. So we can background the words and the thoughts, and we can feel into, I'm here on this spot. Every other place is imagination right now. I'm here. My right foot is here and I can sense it. Is that true? You can sense it. Keep backgrounding the thoughts. The left foot, can you sense it? Your right hand might be touching something. Just take a moment. Your left hand. And the breathing comes. The breathing is here. So I'm going to say a few more words. I encourage you to keep your eyes closed just to feel into these. And then I'm going to read some poems, again, with the encouragement to feel into. So two things I can say about meaning that seem accurate to me. One is it's formed by a deepening of the capacity for experiencing. Experiencing. This is certainly the emphasis in Zen, how we meet the moment more deeply. And the second thing is that we have a larger story, something larger than ourself, seems central to meaningfulness. Gene had what I think of as one of his most profound quotes at the beginning of Experiencing and the Creation of Meaning. And notice it's not experience and the creation of meaning. It's experiencing. And why is that so important? Well, in the world today, there's lots of people collecting experiences, but not going deeper in experiencing. It's kind of like taking a picture on a trip, jumping back in the bus and going on. So there's something that he saw early on about experiencing being central. And this is his quote, and I want to say it before we read the poems. Meaning is formed in the interaction of experiencing and something that functions symbolically. Let's go slow there. Meaning is formed in the interaction of experiencing what's happening right now and some kind of symbolizing. And symbolizing can be words, right? Can be metaphors, can be It can also be gestures, it can be drawing, it can be movement. It's some way that it's represented. And it took me a while to get how this was so central to felt sensing and to life moving forward. And then he says brilliantly, feeling without symbolization is blind. Wow. Feeling something without some kind of way of seeing it, holding it, representing it. It's like incomplete in our brain in some way. And it's blind. It's like being just moved by emotion. Symbolization without feeling is empty. Isn't that beautiful? It's like if you get lost in your head and you get lost in the pictures of things, get lost in all your ideas about things, but you've lost that vital feeling alive in our bodily experience. It somehow is empty. Oh, isn't there so much in that? I'll say it again. Meaning is formed in the interaction of experiencing and something that functions symbolically. Feeling without symbolization is blind. Symbolization without feeling is empty. So, as we go forward, again, I invite you to close your eyes, drop down. I know it's not easy to shift from your bodily felt sense into all these words, but that's what we're doing. And I want to say this William Stafford poem that I'm sure many of you know. It's a popular poem. But it speaks to one way of thinking of path. And then I'll give you another, which is a kind of opposite way of thinking of path. So the first is, and feel this not so much in your head, but in your heart, in your belly. See if it rings true for you or not. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it's hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You never let go of the thread. I know when I first heard this, read this, felt this, I go, well, no, I didn't have a thread, and it seemed to change over time, at least what I was doing, what was important. But then I went a little deeper, and I started to see that, wow, in the background, not so much on the surface of what I was doing, but the background of what was the kind of qualities I had when I think of from in my youth, from say 0 to 12 years old. I'm going to encourage you to invite images of 0 to 12, the kind of qualities that somehow were in you, different than your siblings probably. Okay, the kind of things that thrilled you, that attracted you, that were interesting to you. Yeah, and if we can name for ourselves a few of the qualities, like if you're looking, I like to say from a bird's eye view, from a timeless place, if you could see the young you, isn't it kind of fun? You get this big view as if you're, say, in the heavens looking over your life, looking at the biography that's unique to you. And you look down and you go, oh, that's what she was doing. Oh, that called her or him. Oh, oh. I can see the roots of my becoming a teacher and being curious about helping people and wanting to share a certain kind of joy or gratitude was already there. Even the challenges, the difficulties of my mother and her deep depressions were all part of this thread that somehow in the background was functioning. And then I invite you, I know this is a little quick, but I wish we had a week to do this. But think of the last 10 or 12 years. What has called you? What has been important in your life? What are the qualities of being that you've been bringing into the world that you appreciate? And just notice, is there any relationship to that young you? So I'm going to give you a few moments to reflect on that, to feel into that. It may not be true for you. I'm not saying it has to be, but feel into it. And I'm going to close a window because there's sound in my yard. So just reflect for a few minutes. So, so maybe there's a thread that's been maybe conscious for you, certainly was not conscious for me, but became conscious as I reflected on something that's been kind of guiding me, leading me, calling me. Because as Viktor Frankl says so well, the question is not, it's not helpful to stay with what is the meaning of life. That's too big. But what is life asking of you, offering you, wanting from you in your uniqueness, in the gifts that you have to bring into this world? So maybe there's a thread, maybe not. We're keeping the don't know mind in all of this. And I want to give you a kind of opposite, in a certain way, or I would say actually complementary view. Complementary view to this thread that maybe you're following or is leading you. The first poem was William Stafford. This one is the wonderful poet Antonio Machado. And it goes, It's called The Traveler and the Path, and it's beautiful. Traveler, there is no path. Traveler, your footprints are the path and nothing more. Traveler, there is no path. The path is made by walking. By walking, the path is made. And when you look back, you'll see a road, never to be trodden again. Traveler, there is no path, only trails across the sea. Only trails across the sea. So maybe there is no thread, or maybe there is. Maybe we just live our life and it's in reverse that we can see what's been bringing it all together, and that there has been something, but it's been in the background. It's been not known until we have stepped forward. And maybe there's a thread you can be conscious of, and you can maybe you can look forward at something that's calling you, or maybe it's looking backward that we see what has been the unique and precious living of this life. And this has to be beyond our judgments of, oh, I'm living well, I'm not living well, oh, I'm fulfilling my destiny, I'm not. All of that, it can have value, but is actually not deep enough in a certain way. It's something like, I am here. I am living a unique life. I've had unique challenges that have helped to form me. I've had unique gifts that have helped inspire me. And I can look back, I can look forward, and I can be right here with the sense that the past and future are here now. The present moment is much larger than an inkling of time. It includes the past and the future. Let's just take a few moments with these great poets. Maybe they resonate someplace in this forming of meaning between experiencing and symbolizing. So I think maybe that's enough of an introduction. And I'd love to open it to hear from you what is moving, what is touching. Certainly not looking for any agreement with how I look at things, but to engage with you would be very satisfying for me. And then after a while, we'll offer the opportunity for breakout rooms where you have maybe 20 minutes or something to be able to communicate with others more intimately. And I'll also stay here for those who want to stay in a larger room not have that experience of the small space. If nobody stays here, I probably won't stay. Great. So the floor is open for sharing or questioning. I'm happy to, and maybe let me know. Sometimes I'll respond spontaneously, and sometimes if you're wanting a response and you haven't made it a question but have just shared something, let me know so I can offer something. And of course, unmute yourself when you want to speak.
You don't mind if I go first?
Go ahead.
All right. So pleasure. Pleasure to meet you. It's the first time being awake enough to join one of these. But it's just kind of interesting. It's I'm not familiar with the Feldenkrais method. But it's kind of interesting that you combine that with Zen meditation and focusing, just because my elder is Cherokee, and he introduced me to J.T. Garrett, and who is an Irish and Cherokee medicine elder, and he talks about how the Cherokee combined meditation, but also with something that it's not the same, but it was similar to what's qigong in Chinese martial arts practice. So that same kind of cross similarities across cultural, even though individually different, is kind of interesting to me.
Great.
Also, since you mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs, are you familiar that he was influenced by the Blackfoot?
No, was not
If you want, I'll put it in the chat, but it's a great article, so I'll share that with y'all.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And done.
Great. Thank you so much.
Naharbra, don't mention it.
For me, there was so much in what you said, Russell, and it's all right there. And I'm kind of sifting through and saying, well, what of all that would I want to say? And I think that's where a lot of you are, just seeing what of all that is calling to you to say. Or
Yeah, beautiful. And I just want to celebrate the joy of silence, the joy of being together without a sense of pressure or anything. And this being together, it's unique that we are, in the one hand, in very separate places, little boxes on a screen, in another hand, surprisingly interconnected. And we're sharing this moment of consciousness and the waiting for what wants to come forward is wonderful. And so I'm very comfortable with silence, and I'm very comfortable with your sharing and your questioning.
Hi. I've been following the Advaita teaching, which is loosely translated as non-duality. It's an ancient Indian tradition. And listening to you, what you just offered, made me wondering, really wondering. Again, and this is the question of Advaita. Who am I? Who am I? The premise of the Indian Advaita teaching is if I really look at, if I really try to find who am I will not. I'm not finding who am I. It's impossible because anything I can place on me as I am that, I'm this or that, comes, if I really look, if I examine, comes as not being fully it. It's not me, still not me again. So I'm not this, I'm not this. And I am that. It's not, cannot be put in the words. And that's basically what the teachers say. If you ask a teacher, who are you? He would say, probably, I am that. And while I was listening and feeling and thinking and probing into myself, I see myself as somebody where, or something, where East and West meets. And what you offered, Russell, what you just offered is a Western path. And Advaita is the Eastern path. Not the only one, right? But I would one of the well, maybe all of them, all of the Eastern paths, they actually merge into something like that, like Advaita. So I'm feeling myself being this meeting place of the East and West.
Mm.
And thank you for this.
Thank you, Victor. I'm surprised that you think that my view is Western. I feel, if anything, it's a little more Eastern than Western, but I also feel the integration. And we can say that self-actualization is self-transcendence. So what that means for me, in the words of Zen Master Dogen, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be awakened by all things. So it's the moment of intimacy where self and other is no longer. So you may think of that as a Western teaching, but I don't.
That's fine. This is also fine. It's a meeting place. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's so beautiful.
Maybe that's another duality that doesn't have to be taken so seriously.
Truly.
I hear a lot about left brains and right brains and, just endless dualities that people seem to love.
Yeah.
But that's not what I wanted to say. I don't know how to say what I want to say. It just feels like a big mess. So I'm just going to put out a little mess. So I was wondering how you see, where do you see the origin of this search for meaning, and why do we have to take it so seriously? And I use as an example that I have two cats, and I don't think they're doing a lot of searching for meaning.
Right.
And I I understand that, so if we had things all kind of set with the church, or ways many, maybe most people still do in the world, it's not just the past, there's just this effete group of us who kind of have the luxury and privilege to think about these rarefied things and search for this fancy meaning stuff. And I just wonder if we have to take it so seriously. And sometimes I wonder, it's a curse sometimes, this, and right, you could say it's a curse, or you could say it's an opportunity. but I also am thinking about, why do we have to think about it so seriously? And I have more of a goal of being a little bit more like my cats, I think. And I wonder if to get materialistic about it, is it perhaps an act of an accident of evolution? I mean, I don't know if you get into the materialistic part of it at all, that we happen to have evolved in this wacky, fancy way, that we have all these fancy, complex neurons, or whatever you want to, if you see it as something given by God. I don't know how to talk about that, but
Could I ask you
but you
to?
understand what I'm saying? Is it just a
Yeah.
crazy accident, and now we have to look for meaning and do all this stuff? Why? We seem to be making
Yeah,
a big
can you
deal.
pause a second, Liz? It's getting to be, I want to be able to take in
I
what
understand.
you're saying. So,
I
so,
lose it if I pause. So I'm very panicky that it's so hard for me to keep a coherent thought.
yeah,
But now I shall pause.
thank you. I can hear that it feels like a big mess, but actually you communicated in a way that I could hear you. At least I think I heard you. What I heard was that you see your cats and you go, how simple. Why make such a big deal out of this meaning? And isn't it kind of more, I'll put in a different word, kind of more natural than that? And let's have and I totally agree. I have no different. I mean, for me, one of the keys to self-transcendence is humor. Humor is a moment of stepping out of who you think you are and being taken by something. And that is so natural and for so many missing. So why is it important? Why is it important to take seriously? It's because there are so many people committing suicide, and so many people addicted to drugs, and so many people who are hungry for some sense of what am I doing here? Now we can say that that's an evolutionary mistake. I don't judge evolution. I say we're in this situation. Let's encounter it. Let's be careful of getting too serious, but let's be careful of not taking it seriously enough, because the consequences are huge. And so I say, yes, let's bring humor, let's bring lightness, let's not get lost in our white privilege of thinking about things like this. But let's also, so we need multi-views, multiple ways of seeing. When you say, yes, it is natural to just, for a cat to be a cat, for a flower to be a flower, and for a human being to be a human being. And we have evolved these cortexes that create representations of the world. And there is something about, as Jean was saying, the meeting of our experience and our holding of that experience, our representation of it, that has become very important for human beings. I don't, your cats don't have representations that they're
Right.
living through. So we were given this gift and this curse, and this is our situation. So I totally agree. Let's not get lost in some kind of artificial seriousness or trying to, think it through. It's not a thinking process. That's where felt sensing is such a gift to liberate us from, if when people are lost in their thoughts about meaning, it's empty. Symbolization without feeling is empty. What is the meaning of life? What am I here for? That kind of, existential college experience. Maybe something some of us have to go through, but it's certainly not the center of what we're working with. For me, we're working with what keeps me from being intimate with more and more moments.
I totally, and I see that there's a whole lineup of people aching to speak, but I also wanted to address your suicide thing there. I also think if I'm a therapist and if clients come to me in that existential, depression and meaning, I talk about it with them and I think it's real, but I also don't take it literally. I don't even take that
Of course.
literally. I think that people will use those concepts, but it may just be feeling like
I'm not
nobody loves you, you know?
I'm not talking about whether they commit suicide, whether they're real. I'm saying so many people that I interact with
Mhm.
regularly often feel a sense of disconnection.
Yes,
And that's what we're talking about.
I get it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bailey and Abby and also Mia and
I think Abby is first.
Go ahead.
And Lynn, I don't know how to put my hand up. It's disappeared on my computer.
Um, yeah, I just spent 6 months in Asia and just being in different cultural contexts, I personally felt like this question didn't feel to have as a strong energetic resonance. Perhaps, I mean, I have some guesses. Maybe some of those places have just a much stronger family, social, cultural, ritual um, processes in place where like the foundation of connection is just much more enmeshed in the way of living. So there isn't as much need to seek the way I've had to personally do here in the West. Um, and then also like social roles just feel a lot more already contained.
Right.
So there isn't as much room. And in some ways it's, I think people are happier. Um, and then, and this is, I was all over in different economic development and wealth in different countries. So I just kind of wonder if it's a Western plague in some ways. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
food for thought. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I mean, in my view, what I'm hearing you say is right on, that there are more culturally defined roles, and there's a gift to that. I kind of view it that gifts are curses and curses are gifts. And let's relate to the situation we have. It's, in my view, true that let me say this. As I travel around the world, I realize that so much of Western consciousness is pervading the whole world. When I used to go to Africa, when I used to go to India, I wasn't seeing the same kinds of materialism, technology, takeover of the virtual world that even 20, 30 years ago, when I would go, because I had the opportunity to go to many places, I was teaching around the world, and there's been a real difference in the last 10 years. That as we export McDonald's, we're also exporting a certain kind of consciousness. And the world, I believe, will go through similar stages of getting lost in materialism and then realizing that something profound has been lost, and there'll be a need to go back to who we were at a higher level, become more like cats, but cats that can reflect, cats that can take care of other people. cats that can bring more love into the world, cats that can write symphonies, cats that can be the vastness of a human being and yet remember that love is at our core. It's not an extra. That intimacy is our longing. It's not something good that happens occasionally. And so I believe, in my view, there are cultures that have more implicit meaning. And even those cultures are starting to dissolve more as what we are bringing to the world, good and bad, is becoming more influential. As the world gets smaller through technology, we will see these kinds of unfoldings. That's my view. Now, let me say, I really would love to just continue, but I believe we're supposed to go into breakout groups. So some people would really like to be in a small group to be able to interact, and some can stay here. And I don't know who, is it
Christine will.
Christine will organize
Yes.
for you. So
If
Christine, why
if
don't
you
you take over and organize that, and then I'll just stay here, and if anybody's left, we'll interact.
I think Bailey was next in line, but she thought about the breakout rooms and she put her hand down. I'm dying to hear what she has to say.
He's right here. Yes, Bailey, let's listen to you.
Hello, everyone. I'll put my hand down now. My place on the screen will change, so let me just do that. Yeah, I'm um I'm sitting with the word and the symbolization of intimacy that you have peppered today's talk with Russell. And there's some connection for me about my own thread and human intimacy. I don't know if there's anything more I want to say about that. Other than the intimacy, I think I'll just say that I've done a lot of traveling, and my experience of intimacy has shifted so much because of the intimacy I've experienced with strangers. Not just strangers, though. Not unique to strangers. But something about those experiences have highlighted a kind of intimacy for me that calls me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey. Yeah, for me, the word intimacy is really important. It's one way of getting to the bottom of what Zen is really about, and that's been so influential on me. It's intimacy is not only human to human or human to animal. It's, can I be intimate with the dishes when I'm washing them? It's a meeting where self and moment, I think of the moment as alive, that we are in it's not only we're alive and there's a moment that we're meeting in, but this moment is actually alive. And when I am present enough to open my body, my heart, my thoughts, as much of myself as I can to what's happening in this moment, in this environment, in this interaction with you, Bailey, and everyone else, and the room I'm in, and the workmen working outside. And when all of that is alive, for me, there is implicit meaningfulness in that meeting. Thank you, Bailey.
So yeah, I just wanted to jump back into something. When Liz and Victor were both talking, that reminded me of something, and it's great because I can tie it to Jean's work. So I do not know much about the. Pardon me if I'm going to mispronounce this, but the Advaita, the Advaita. Thank you, Gurmagat. But at least from my understanding of it, so when in the list talked about about meaning, and how her cats don't necessarily worry about it. So this just reminds me of a quote which I love by John Trudell, which is, "Ebony, I love you, cat, please." Speaking of cats.
So that was great.
Example there.
That was
Yeah.
maybe that's the essence of what you wanted to say right there.
Not quite, but I still want to get to it. But we are part of the memories of evolution. These memories carry knowledge. These memories carry our identity. Beneath race, gender, class, age, beneath citizen, business, state, religion, we are human beings. And that's from John Trudell in his poetry DNA. And that what I like how it ties to Jean's work is because it ties to part 6 of the felt sense. And a step brings one closer to being that self that is not any content. So that's, I wouldn't call it the essence, because at least for me, going on Jean's work, a process model. Again, I love a process model because it reminds me of the quote by Octavio Butler. Everything you touch, change. Everything you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. So that's what it is for me. For me, it's change.
Thank you.
Naharbra.
Okay, can I say something? I was still wondering about what Liz brought in about the cats and wishing for a simple life. And I often hear that kind of nostalgia or something like that. And I was thinking, for me, this is also about awareness. Awareness that I can be aware I have stone qualities, I have plant qualities, I have animal qualities, and owning my specific being as a human species. So it's not so much about wishing to have a simple life like a plant or an animal. For me, it's more about my awareness about what am I meant to be? How I am created as a human being, or I came into this life as a human being. So for me, it has to do with owning my specific qualities as a human being.
Mm.
And part of owning my specific qualities as a human being is that I have this capacity to reflect on things, that I have a capacity to wonder about my talents, and and it's not less or more, it's just owning, being aware. What is it, a human being? And not being an animal or a plant or a stone. So that was something I wanted to share that came when I was listening to Liz and the interaction with you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mia. That's very touching. Yeah.
Yes. I think, Mikhail, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I really like when you said, Russell, that it's also being intimate with the dishes. It says something a lot deeper than if I'm trying, if I'm trying to understand what someone is saying, I'm becoming to understand that this is my way of disconnecting. Trying to understand is a self-contraction. It's not being alive in the moment with the person. It's not connecting the person. Talking about something is not the thing I'm talking about. I'm creating my disconnect as I'm moving along. But I don't notice this because everybody's doing it. I'm not saying the group here, but everybody's doing that. We could say that that is a Western way of doing that we're communicating with now, this disconnect. So I'm becoming aware of it a little bit because I've been telling Lynn and the group that I've been working on for 3 years with thinking at the edge and observing my self-contractions, observing my reactions, an activity that I'm myself self-generating. I'm doing this. I've learned to do this. For whatever reason, people say to protect myself, to survive. I'm not sure yet that that's the case. But it's something I'm doing, and it's kind of a barrier that this is why I believe that in this group, my exploration is, yes, being with everyone and listening. But what does listening mean? From where do I listen? What do I listen at? So I'm beginning to, focusing is about our felt sense. It's about connecting to this area inside us, and it's not about what I feel. Felt senses doesn't access in 10 seconds. It takes a time to get there. And it has let's say, an intelligence of its own. It has something to say to me if I listen to it. So I'm discovering that this self-contraction, this reaction activity stops me from being able to hear what we say in focusing, the aliveness behind the words that the people are saying. That would be the intimacy if I would be able to be at that place, and instead of that quality being behind the words, put it in front of the words. Being alive here with all of you. The idea is there, but this habit comes up, and I can see it coming up. And when I lift my hand to talk, there's a nervousness there. I don't know what I'm going to say. But like Gendlin says in his text, it's okay. I'm becoming a little bit more friendly with this uncomfortable feeling that I am used to. And it's okay because I can live with it if I welcome it and take the risk to share this weird things that I'm doing with myself, to just observe myself in presence of others. So I just wanted to share this. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
I had wanted to make a couple of comments, but my little hand doesn't work. So I think that this could be a moment. I just wanted to say that I think when we're trying to make a distinction between meaning and the sort of college thing of what is the meaning of life, that meaning in the way Gendlin talks about it is such an immediate connection, aliveness, that you can tell when someone is speaking what has meaning. Those are the fire engine words, and you feel it in your chest, right? So it isn't something abstract, it's something that is felt in an immediate way. Jean would say, is that here right now? And that was such a wonderful question. Is that here right now? And then that has meaning. The person may not think about it as meaning, but it's felt as meaning. And that being a human being is a storied creature. And we express ourselves in stories. And the stories are our way of making meaning, almost like the birds that make a nest or something. We make stories. And it seems to me that there's a story of me, and then there's a story of us. And in some cultures, the story of us is a kind of given, and that holds a lot of meaning. And in other cultures, the story of I is in the foreground. And finding the I when you are in a culture of we, like Abby, it feels exciting. There's an I that isn't just part of the family. And when you're in a culture of I-ness, like here in New York, then when I have the larger story of the we, it's not just me. We human beings are at this threshold of, are we going to make it to the next evolutionary step or not? And we better pay attention. And it's an exciting moment and a moment of tremendous need. That's exciting. So that was my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, for me, what that inspires for me, Lynn, is this sense that I have that there is a movement in relationship, whether it's a primary relationship or relationship to doing the dishes or to walking in nature or walking down 42nd Street, that there is a movement that's like oneness into duality or separateness, back into oneness, back into, and that this rhythm, it's like every cell of our body opens and closes. The idea, some misunderstandings, for example, of Advaita, in my opinion, are thinking you stay in oneness. No, there's a dance. There's a dance. And that dance is what, in my opinion, a really excellent primary relationship doesn't just stay connected and one. That's emerging. That we want the individuality and the self-transcendence and the individuality and the self-transcendence. And this is the dance, in my view, what humanity is learning at a certain level. It's another level of consciousness to value that each of us has a different gift to bring, that our individuality is important, and that that individuality is in service to the larger being that we share. And that sense of, do I tend to get stuck in my selfness? Do I tend to get stuck in a lower level of letting go of self, where I've lost myself in an unhealthy way, where I've merged into the needs of others, where I've become the martyr, or I've become something that is not actualizing the individual experience? Or have I gotten lost? Where have I gotten lost? And where do I need more fluidity in my relationships at work, at home, walking down the street? Where is that? And so that dance, I feel like we're growing the capacities. I think to be in our bodies is really helpful. To be in touch with our feelings is really helpful. To be in touch with our symbolizing, our thoughts, our reflections is really helpful. And to be in touch with the outer world of our situation. And those four elements are what I call an integrated whole experience. And that's, I keep wanting to notice, am I disconnected from my feelings, disconnected from my symbolizing, disconnected from my body, disconnected from the world, wherever, or are they all somehow not equal, but all available in the moment? And when that's true, intimacy is possible in my experience.
Nuri, would you like to speak?
So much for this has been extremely complex and rich.
A little bit louder, Niti.
Oh, sorry. I said this has been very complex and rich, and I am just like starting to touch upon certain things in this conversation, but you know, what comes to me is like, I am with the dishes, really. This is where I am in my own development.
That's pretty good.
Very serious when I say that.
You can come to my house.
Because no, but this, I'm serious when I say that. However, the element that you brought about the thread is really something. My struggle has been as an Israeli and a Jewish person has been how to not survive, how to thrive, quote unquote, because my inheritance have been huge amount of trauma, and it still goes on. And when I think about the thread, I think about the movement of life. And I think about that there is a secret of my that I have to fulfill. And the secret is about how to take the thread and to bring life.
To Dorothy to please mute your microphone.
Oh, you don't hear me?
No, it's just, and Victor's also waiting to speak. And
Oh, okay.
happening, yes.
So all I just wanted to say is about, it's about how to bring the thread of my the life thread of my ancestry into being.
Right.
Yes, very important.
And Nuri, if I might, I would encourage adding to that not only your ancestors, but those who follow you, because they're here too. The past is part of the present moment, and the future is part of the present moment. And we are making possible what our children's children's children might have possible. So we want it in all, in my view, we want it in all directions. Thank you.
Victor.
And then June has been trying to speak.
Thank you. When you, Russell, when you said, what prevents me from being intimate with this moment? That was that big fire engine words to me, and I've done a kind of a little study since then, since I heard that from you now, half an hour ago or so, and I find that being touched by something without knowing what I'm being touched by. And even without trying, that's important, not try to understand, to capture what touches me, being touched, letting myself to be touched by anything without knowing what exactly I'm being touched by at this very moment.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.
I can feel that. I think June, was it?
Yes.
Well, I have been very touched by you today, Russell. And I want to know, do we know where to follow up with your writings or online or something?
Yeah, if you go to my website, which is theembodiedlife.org, or you can go to russelldelman.com, you'll get to the same place. And there are lots of writings and videos that are all free to go further.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a joy.
Enjoyed you today very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Astrid has joined us today. You're going
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to share something which I found so deep which connects to what you've been saying, Russell, in this that meaning is formed in the interaction of experiencing. And that you said gestures and words and things, and what was a big discovery or opening for me with Gene was that he said being aware is also a way or a form of symbolization. And that opened a whole new door for me. And when he expressed that, and there come to the red thread or the thread, that awareness is always a process. It's not just something static you can point to. And so for me, there was a big crossing between Eastern and Western perspectives on life, living, and awareing, which I hadn't expected, and that was really quite important.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And so I find that he has this non-spiritual language in a lot of texts, but as you were pointing to the pauses and to this deeper, you said something like that, a deeper knowing or the deeper living or the deeper uniqueness. And when you really dwell in that language, I find there are all these doors into this total process and spirituality, but it is not like pointing you into that direction so obviously all the time, and that's maybe why it's so relevant these days.
Mm.
I'm wondering what you think about that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, well, certainly the awareing is central. And Jean, in my experience of Jean, was extremely spiritual, extremely leery of spiritual language,
Mm.
and and because so much is becomes conceptual, so much becomes disconnected from experiencing, and he saw that awareness and experiencing was the living forward of life. So he couldn't say the word God without saying God or whatever the fuck you call it. I mean, they were one thing for him, God or whatever the fuck you could, because he so wanted to be careful about conceptualizing this living experience. And in that way, he was very much like a Zen master who, will wash your mouth out with soap if you talk about Buddha or something. You talk about enlightenment, shut up, because you're missing it. You're missing it. You're conceptualizing, like someone was saying before, trying to understand is a separating, and yet it's not, I wanted to say to Michael when he was saying that, there is a way of understanding others that is completely intimate. It has to do with, are you present in your body? Are you present in your feelings? Are you open in such a way that you are permeable? And yet, conceptualizing can be there if it's not dominating your connection to the other, your feeling, and your embodied experience. So,
Yes.
in my view, the reason why I call my work the embodied life is we keep working with all of those elements so that they're online together. That we're present in our bodies, we're present in our feelings, that our conceptual, our symbolizing, our thinking about is here, and we are connected with whatever, whoever, and the space, not only the beings, but the space, and all of that becomes one moment of living. And Jean really had the sense of that in such a profound way. I don't know if I'm getting near what you were saying, Astrid, but it feels similar to me. And
Yeah, I have said it in the group. I was in Japan in a Zen monastery, so I had koan work, and I was very how moved.
yeah,
But sometimes Jean would ask questions like the Zen master with a koan, and he didn't know so much about koans, but he would ask these questions,
yeah,
and
right,
that I found wow.
yeah.
Well, at the time, it really blew me away. I must admit that.
Well, when we look at the I without content, which is a brilliant koan to work with, the I without content, Jean's had a beautiful way of putting that. And if we look at a classic Zen statement that's also worthy of your chewing on, sensing who you are before your parents were born. who are you, what are you before your parents were born, is congruent with the I without content. And this is not philosophical, spiritual language for other people. This is for us living. And in my view, bringing our gifts into the world, bringing what I think of as our love into the world, has something to do with having a deep connection to that essence, that I without content, that's carrying the gift you're bringing into the world. It's not separate from. So in Zen language, we say form and emptiness are one. So form is how I'm bringing it into the world, but the vastness or essence that's under that has been cultivated or connected to enough that is perfuming the air out of which it's coming, out of which the expression is coming. And that's our practice, that's our work, if we want to see it that way.
Thank you. I think it's time for us to stop, and I know that Mikhail, you have something more to say, but I wish
just
you could.
1 minute.
Yes.
1 minute. Because of a fleeting moment that happened, it seemed that for me that we went to something else. When June, and I'll ask you directly, and not about you, when you shared that you said that it was a joy for you this morning to be with Russell and the group, the phrase that we well know in our groups came up, wanting to ask you, can you say more about it? And then it said, no, I don't want you to say more about it. Can we take a moment to feel the joy and share from there? That would be intimacy for me. But talking about it would not be it. That's just what I wanted to share.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, June. Thank you, Russell.
And you can also talk about and from at the same time, right? And I think we have been very much this morning. Thank you so much, Russell. And thank you all. And we'll see you next week. And Russell, if you could stay just for a couple of minutes.
Okay, sure. Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everybody.
Yeah, I'm grateful for your presence and for being with you. Thank you.